I'm Rob, and I work at Reading Room. We're a digital consultancy based over in Soho, and I'm an analyst there. And our mission really is to make the internet a more beautiful place, and we do that by making websites for people and web services that are beautiful to look at, but also beautiful in function as well. So we really try and understand what users need as well as what the businesses need. And so we're here in the search marketing theatre, and I'm going to talk about that sort of second stage of search, which is when you finally got people to visit your site, and you've done all your SEO and you've made your site visible to the right people, and you managed to get them to visit. And so nowadays the question about what's in a visit or what is a visit is changing a lot. It's become a lot more complicated than it used to be, because it's complicated because the web has developed a lot, and it's developing fast, and it's no longer just a mass, a congregation of websites that people visit. It's not as easy as that anymore. It's about much more than a website these days. And as the web has developed, we've seen these sort of focal points emerging. And obviously that was an early trend with things like Yahoo and AOL, where these were portals that people came through to visit other sites, and the content was produced and presented through those portals, and they got a lot of visits. And we're seeing that now with things like Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, where people aren't visiting your website, but they're still visiting your content or your brand, and they're touching your brand. So it's difficult to understand now what really is a visit, or how do we define what is a visit, because it's no longer just a visit, someone landing on your homepage. So with so many presences on so many platforms, how do we define a visit? Well, we could argue about that all day, to be honest, and it's kind of a philosophical question these days, what is a visit? But we take a fairly modular view on this, and think about it in terms of your content and your media, and a visit being any interaction or viewing of your brand's media, wherever that might be hosted. So from a website perspective, it's always been pretty easy to track visits. It's a lot of people would say, that the EU included, that it's too easy to track visits, and that we should put some controls on tracking. But it's always been really easy to track visits, and also to track the behaviour of those visits and those sessions, and also where those visits are coming from and where the journey goes once they land on your website. And so a visit to your website has simply been made up of page views and a number of interactions with your content on those pages. And we've been tracking the basics of visits for a long time, and these are sort of the staples of the internet that we've seen, whether it's these super old school visit counters that you wouldn't be seen dead with these days, or conversion numbers, sales, geographic breakdowns of visits, bounce rates. It's the oldest joke in digital. As long as there's been bounce rates, there's been people putting bouncy castles on PowerPoints. System information, like what browser you're using, downloads, and time on the site. And this is really valuable data. We've been getting this for a long time, and it's really the staple of analytics. And we've also been able to track the efficacy and the value of online campaigns. And in the e-commerce world, that's a really easy thing to do. We can work out which campaign led to how many sales. So the idea of doing any sort of campaign arithmetic in front of all you makes me feel physically sick. So I'm going to simplify this down to really simple examples. So if campaign A costs 25 grand, gets 10,000 visits and 1,000 sales, campaign B costs the same and gets 10,000 visits and 2,000 sales, we know which one was better. And that's how easy it is in the e-commerce world. When I worked in e-commerce, we did a load of testing, A/B testing, campaign testing, and there was a nice clean sales number or conversion number at the end of that, and we knew which one to take forward, we knew which one to iterate on, and which one to spend money on the next time. So that's pretty easy in the e-commerce world when you have a nice clean sales number. In the B2B world, or in any website where it's not as simple as conversions or sales, or there's multiple goals going on, it's not quite as simple as that. And the sums become a lot more vague because the campaigns don't result in nice, clean conversion numbers. So in the B2B world, what we get is campaign X costing 25 grand, 10,000 visits, and we get all this random data back. And these are, again, the staples of analytics, but it's all mixed up and there's not a nice clean number. And when we have another campaign to compare against it, it might have gotten less visits, but we also get this range of data back. And so it's difficult to know which campaign is the winner. Which one do we take forward? Which one do we iterate on? Where do we spend our money next time? The answer is that we could work it out if we really wanted to, and it would be a long, arduous process of digging through that data, working out relationships between those metrics and what matters to the business, and it would be a difficult process, and it needs data analysts and people who are really comfortable with analytics and also the internal operations of a company. So really, who can be bothered with all that these days? And also, more importantly, who in the corporate comms, who is setting the message can do that. It's very rare that data analysts are also setting the messages for campaigns and setting the direction for marketing. So it's really important that these campaigns, the data that comes back from them is really easily understandable. And too often we're not iterating on the right campaigns because the data is just too muddled. And that's a problem. So it needs to be easy, and it needs to be automated, and crucially it needs to get to the right people so that we can iterate on the campaigns and get more visits, get more conversions. So the difficulty is, how do we really track the value of a visit in a B2B context, or in any context where it's not just simply sales? Well, if there's one thing that technology does, it's solve its own problems. And this is a technological problem, and there's a lot of marketing technology out there that's emerging that is beginning to solve these problems and make that data easy to read and getting it in front of the right people. And CMS vendors are recognizing this problem, as well as analytics people. Google Analytics have been working on it, but a lot of CMS vendors and digital marketing system vendors have also been recognizing that this is a problem and building features that solve it. The products like Sitecore, they've been working on analytics that look at the value of interactions rather than just the fact that an interaction happened, but looking at how much value to the business that interaction is worth. And a lot of this is just about simply attributing a value to an interaction as you would a purchase. So a video might be 5 points, downloading a white paper might be 10 points, submitting a form where there's active sort of data collection going on, that would be more valuable at 50 points, or reading a piece of content might be 5 points. And this isn't merely goal tracking, this is adding an extra layer of data to those goals and relating interactions to the value that the business sees in those interactions. And there's a lot of value in adding that layer of data when we start looking at what comes back from campaigns. And it really amounts to virtual qualification of leads, so that we can look at users' interactions with the website and work out which users have seen which information and which leads are more valuable than others. And that's how we can really track the value of B2B visits and ultimately make our campaigns better and target the right people. So back to the horrible vomit-inducing maths. If paid campaign X costs 25 grand and garners 10,000 visits, here's where we get a nice clean number back. Instead of that muddled data, we get 5,000 value points. Campaign Y, same cost, fewer visits, but more value points. We know that this is the one we've got to take forward. And that's a big shift that's happening now, is that we can, in a B2B context, work out exactly which campaigns that we should be taking forward, and find out really simply which one's better. And the important thing is that we don't need to be data analysts to work that out. Anyone can do it, and anyone can decide that this is the campaign we want to move on with, this is the direction we want to go in. So with this extra layer of data, when that gets integrated into CMS systems or digital marketing systems, that's where we can couple it with segmentation, and segment the audience according to profiles, possibly predefined profiles that we've got, and look at behavior on the site and match it to profiles, and then couple that with campaign automation, so that when we know a visitor is coming in and behaving in a certain way, we know that this is the campaign to show them next. This is how we appeal to that profile and increase the value of multiple visits to the website or your channels. And ultimately, we can start to make more effective marketing decisions. And really what this is all about is making data readable and understandable to the right people. I know there are people from Google here, and it's one of the things that Google have always said is that they've been harvesting data, billions of data points, since their inception, and it's all about being able to read that data. It's completely useless to them if they don't have good systems in place to read it and actually get lessons from that data. So this is what it's all about. We've been getting the right data for years, but we haven't been adding that extra layer to make it readable to the right people. But it also solves another problem, and that's in the other 90%. Those people that have come to the website and they haven't converted, they haven't engaged, and they haven't bought anything. And so if we know that a number of visits to the website translates into a certain value or a number of sales, we also know that a certain amount didn't buy. And what do we do about those people? I mean, often those people, it's very difficult to work out why they didn't buy based on just numbers. And you know, a lot of the time it warrants qualitative analysis, where we go out and we ask people why they didn't buy. What was it about the site? What was it about the buying process that didn't make you want to commit? And that's where nurture strategy comes into play. And if we have this extra layer of value data integrated with the CMS, then we can start to nurture the leads in the right way. So if we know they came to the site and they didn't do much, they didn't engage much, they didn't push that value figure up very much, we can make use of the analytics we already have, those standard data sets, and understand where they came from, and work out a little bit about the profile of that user. And then, when it's integrated with a content management system, we can start to personalize the content based on that profile and their behavior. And it might be behavior over a number of visits. And we know that if they haven't seen that really important video yet, we can highlight it to them when they need to see it. And that's automatically highlighting the content. And we can also reach out on a number of channels and say, based on this profile and the behavior of this user, we need to, you know, it might be appropriate at this point to extend, you know, a newsletter sign-up form or a video or a piece of content that they haven't seen yet. And that way you can monitor the value of individual users, but also organizations, especially in a B2B context, organizations who are visiting you over time. And that ultimately is how you can get campaigns to pay dividends in the future. So it becomes less and less, as the web has developed and these visits have stretched out into outposts and focal points, and it's less and less about visiting a website and converting. This is how we can get campaigns to be not so much about this is the campaign and this is how many sales it got. It's more about using campaigns as one of a set of tools that we can use that nurture leads and push them towards ultimately converting at the end. And that's, these days, how we're seeing finding true value in a visit. So thank you. There's probably a lot to take in there, and there's quite a lot of ideas, and there's some specifics to that as well. So if you have any questions, I'll be around afterwards, and I know that there's guys at the Sitecore booth who can tell you how to make this happen as well in reality. So thanks very much. Enjoy the day.